Hi, welcome to the Swagga Like Us show where we dive into the stories of the culture makers, street artists, and indie innovators who shaped the late 2000s and early 2010s before the internet got mainstream. This is a space to celebrate and learn from the stories of underground icons, trendsetters, and the originals who built the blueprint for modern culture. Today, I am honored to be speaking with Michael McConnell, who is an award winning brand consultant, cultural marketer, community leader, and author. A proud New Yorker who grew up in the challenging streets of Jamaica, Queens in the 80s, Queens get the money. He embodies hard work and compassion for humanity. As the founder of the Rebel Camp, Michael has successfully launched tech startups, beverage companies, and wellness groups. He serves as the co founder and head of culture and marketing director for Uncle Whately's, a beverage company, a ginger beer brand available in Whole Foods. Michael is also a founding board member of Equity Platforms, which democratizes access to ownership and creates affordable housing for those in need. His passion for men's mental health and wellness is evident in his initiatives aimed at improving access to mental health equity for underserved communities in New York City. Wow, what an intro. Hi, Michael.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for having me, Alex.
I'm so happy
Excited.
I'm happy we can have this conversation, and I think it's important for everyone listening to know how this came to be. So, I didn't know who Michael was. By way of threads, I saw something that you posted, and the post said, and it's crazy because you think TikTok and YouTube tell every story, but for some reason, the true facts of the 2000s Black progressive vanguard from New York City is not documented. The
Yeah.
nightlife personalities, the people, folks like Rihanna and Kanye pulled inspiration from our circles. My knowledge of NYC nightlife is so vast, and I'm ready to share it. And I was like, wait, hold on. Who is this guy?
That sounds like a confession. I was like, I'm ready to spill the beans. You know what I'm saying? No, that
I
was that
love
was
it.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm noticing that Threads is really good at showing me content I care about. It's almost like, wow, I guess Meta does have this capability. They just don't use it so much on Instagram. I feel like it's more apparent on Threads. And I think part of that is because they're growing it and they're trying to make it sticky right now so that we're
hmm
highly engaged. So I'm so happy this connection was able to happen by way of that stage of growth on that platform. And
Yeah.
the reason why that thread intrigued me is because I have been wanting to talk about the Soho kids, the Tumblr kids, the early internet kids, simply because, well, first of all, they just inspire the shit out of me. Like that era just energizes me so much. Like I am so fascinated by it on a personal level. But I think also what I want to make sure we discuss in our conversation is like I want to reminisce, but I also want us to learn, right? I want us to learn about why does culture matter so much? Why is it so significant? And more about like the history, because we're old enough now, Michael, we have heritage. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
We have heritage, and I think we should be proud of it, especially as New York City like kids.
hmm
So with that being said, I want to start with you kind of painting us a picture because I'm super curious. It's 2010. You're in New York City. This is 15 years ago, if you can believe it. What borough are you in? How old are you? What are you doing? What are you noticing around you? And what's inspiring you specifically?
It's so crazy that you say 2010 because I go back 10 years before that.
I'm sure, yes.
So I mean, by wow, 2010 was a crazy year, right? And my introduction into just culture and nightlife and I've always loved music, but actually working in it actually started in like 2002 2003. But the question was 2010.
Yeah,
What I will say is that there was still this level of rawness there
yeah,
that you couldn't fill up your cup just by going on social media.
right.
You had to be, as the kids say, outside. And that it was a major piece of the culture. If I can paint the picture, and I would say that access to nightlife and nightlife venues was still being sort of democratized, right? Because
Mm,
these gatekeepers at these venues, to be honest with you, is still very racist.
yeah,
And they did not want a lot of black people in their venues
yeah,
because of the stigma of, what they saw on TV or what they were told that, we're going to turn up the venue and DMX is going to come out and throw a Timberland at your head and shoot up the club.
So hip
Fallacies.
hop is still stigmatized at this point.
Hip hop is still stigmatized at this point, but what they don't realize is that our culture is not just one myopic thing. It's not
Right,
just like hip hop and Memphis Bleak and Jay-Z. No, there
right.
were all these different splinter groups, as I would call it, culturally, that existed in New York City that were baked 7 years before 2010. So
Mhm.
you've got your different sections of people. You got your, what I would say, your sort of like working class after work blacks, and not just black, it's just a mixture of people.
Yes.
You got your like straight Afrocentric folks that were living in Brooklyn when it was still affordable to live in Clinton Hill and Bed-Stuy, and you had 2 and 3 roommates, and you were just getting by, and you were dancing in Fort Greene Park on Saturdays. Then you had your sort of like super artsy crowd, right? That just used to hop from art gallery to art gallery and then do nightlife late nights. And they didn't want you to know. They gatekeeped
On
what
purpose.
the venues were. At this time, it really was connecting still word of mouth. Like, yo, where you at? Texting and like, what are you doing? This is popping right now.
Do
And there
you
was just this
what phone you had?
God, and I mean, that's a great question. I mean, like I said, 2010 was very, and I definitely want to talk about even before that because
Yeah.
by this time the cake was already baked.
Right.
We already baked the cake.
Yes.
So I definitely it was iPhone, right? But like, I mean, geez, I mean, you had like,
Honestly, Michael, I doubt you had an iPhone. Just I know it's all a blur, and that's why
yeah,
I'm asking because
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't even know what phone I had in 2010. But if you can believe it, the iPhone dropped in 2007. It didn't really start getting mainstream adopted until 2009 because that's when it got on the major
yeah,
networks.
yeah,
And it took a while before like almost everyone had it. Like
yeah.
it took until like 2010, 2011. So maybe you were cool. If you did have an iPhone, you were super cool.
Yeah, yeah, and mind you, I'm already like, I'm 46, so I was already like grown ass man,
Right,
what I mean,
right.
like, so I had kids and stuff like that. So, well, a kid at the time,
Yeah,
so I probably did have that first iteration only because you were getting like at that point you were getting like flamed if you didn't have one, right? Like you were like, yo, what's this? You ain't got no iPhone, and like you wanted to be cool with the girls and stuff like that.
yeah,
So the cake was by 2010, the cake was already baked. You
yes,
kind of pick which social circle that you would involve yourself in. So how it started culturally, and this is just forever in my opinion, it
yeah,
starts off with the individual. The individual, decides what clique they want to be a part of, and then that clique turns into community. So individual, clique, community.
yeah,
So depending on your background, if you were the artsy guy, you're the artsy guy. If you were the after work club corporate people, you would do that. If you were like the hustle entrepreneurs, you would do that. So it was beautiful because it was all so new, and we thought we were grown. So now instead of just hanging out because here's the deal, at that time period, there were only about 4 clubs in Manhattan that would take black folks. I'm just keeping it real. And that
you
was
name them? Are they
oh
still
yeah, yeah, I can't. Katra,
okay?
Prana, God, there's a Slate, and everybody had the same thing. It was just like the sexy Tuesday, sexy Thursday parties.
I
And
love
I'm not
that.
gonna yeah, and I'm not gonna if this was a few years ago, can I curse?
Yeah, it's the internet.
A few years ago, I was shitting on those parties. I said, man, I hate these parties. I really do because they're
Why
so
did you
like
hate them?
the reason why I hated those parties is because one, I was a pretentious nightlife asshole,
Hmm.
and two, I wanted to see culture evolve.
So you
So
felt like they were at a plateau.
yeah, they couldn't get out of the bad boy era, right? No disrespect, no Diddy, but like they
Right, right,
couldn't
right.
get out of the bad boy era. They
Yeah,
couldn't get out of the see you looking at me. Okay, 112 ain't made a goddamn record at this point. Like, let's move beyond just R&B and hip hop and let's start evolving other elements into it. Art, film, all of these things. So my goal was to converge all these things together and help you elevate your game and use nightlife as sort of that catalyst to start conversations. So there were some very progressive people within the space. I'd like to think of myself as one.
absolutely.
Some very progressive stuff starting to happen. we were starting to get access to the things that white people had, which sounds horrible, but rooftop parties were huge in 2010. If you were on a goddamn rooftop, you made it. You could have $12 in your pocket. Rooftop parties, after work parties, that was that crowd, right? And
Okay.
that was a crowd that was mainly converging into Manhattan because more clubs and lounges started to see that, like, yeah, you can't have your dress code anymore. Fuck your dress code, man. The dress code was racist. That was a racist thing to keep black people in their place and to keep them limited to where they could go in Manhattan. So in
What were
2000,
you allowed, like, do you have an example of like what Black people were wearing to try to get in and what you get turned down for?
you have to go back. So you have to go back to the late 90s, the early 2000s,
Let's go
2001,
back. Let's go back because
let's
I
go back. Yeah, because I feel like 2010 is already the cake was baked. In
yes. So let's go
2003,
back to the ingredients.
exactly. So 2001, 2000. So if you really want to talk about the people that started, and we could start at Nightlife, right?
Yeah.
Nightlife is to me the ground floor for all culture
Mm-hmm.
because the misfits gather in one place. They're not at work. They're not in front of their parents. They can be themselves 100%. A little liquor involved and some other things. And you got, all types of things happening from
Right.
sex to art to whatever. So
Yeah.
2002, 2003, 2004, still very limited. We were still very limited in where we could party as black folks. So they would implement these dress codes. And you see the joke on social media. We used to come to the club business casual. I
Right.
mean, the fits were atrocious, atrocious fits.
So that's why. That's why people were dressing business casual because we had to change what we were dressing in just to get in. Is that where
Yeah,
you think that influence came from? Wow, I never put the two
yeah.
together.
So mine,
So we were dressing fly, but we had to kind of dress like trash to get in the club.
yeah. And at the time, we thought we was fly. Let's be fair, right? So
That's fair. That is fair.
understand where the culture is in 2002, 2003, 2004. Hip hop is on top of the world. Jay Z, Nas, all the regulars. I'm just naming the regulars.
Yeah.
And Jay Z was like, "Yo, button up, button down, you hard bottom shoes, blah 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 blah," and we all started to adjust the way that we dress. The
That
woman
was a big moment. I remember it was like, oh, we're
yeah,
dressing, like we're grown up now. Like,
I mean, when I look back at it, those fits were horrible, but at the same token, there's all these other movements happen, but just specifically to focus on dress code and nightlife culture and how it evolved,
so interesting.
we were limited to where we could go. And yes, 4040 existed, but they still had a dress code. Actually, they were some of the worst to get into in that club. I remember that. So we were limited. So culture, it limited self-expression. So there were all these like underground movements happening, but on a larger scale for Manhattan, there was only 3 or 4 or 5 places that you could go to for many years.
Yeah.
And until, and this is where I said, this is when the spoons, the pots, and the pans come out until this whole revolution of I don't want to just be put in a box as a black person kind of started, right? And
Yeah.
the Pharrells, the Kid Cuddies. Kid Cudi came a lot after, and I'm not just saying him, but downtown culture, art,
Skater
fashion,
culture has
music,
came to.
you started to see more black artists saying, yo man, I don't want to just like talk about killing and selling drugs. We started to be okay with embracing weird, right? And different, which was still shunned upon. Like, yo man, who's this dude, man? Nah, man, he ain't got a throwback jersey on. And mind you, we're still in that throwback jersey, hush puppy shoe wearing
That's what
era.
I wanted to know because you were talking about how I find it really fascinating that there was an era I don't think my generation thinks about too much, the kind of shiny suit Harlem, Mace
Oh
Puff.
man.
And when I talk to real hip hop heads, they're always like, that's when hip hop died, like, because it got so flashy. And I think that like Harlem influence, I always joke, I'm a Brooklyn girl. And I
Yeah.
feel like we're always more calm and cool and collected, where Harlem's like in your face,
Yeah. Right.
red furs, orange furs, which I think can be fly. But to your point, so I can see, are you saying like the influence of the late 90s, early 2000s of the
Hmm.
baggy, shiny, that had to be refined in order to actually get into certain clubs. And then at the same time we're getting artists like the Pharrell and Kanye and Kid Cudi kind of being like, we're kind of backpack kids. We went to college and we want
Yeah,
to think about like art school and
yeah,
shit like that. So all of this is happening at the same time. Okay, keep going.
it is. The gumbo is starting to form,
Mm,
and you get tired of standing online being disrespected by some club owner who doesn't even care about your culture,
yeah,
just taking your money and going off, and then appealing to his main crowd, right? His main crowd. But the issue is this, is that the main crowd didn't have the loyalty, which is the white crowd, didn't have the loyalty that he thought he wanted. He wanted to do this like European model thing and have these, these type of clubs. But black people were like, yo, we got the money. We could get in. Why can't we get in?
yeah,
So when you're seeing that, now it's like, God damn it. All right, well, I have to change my business ethos to adhere to the demand, right?
yeah,
And we just sort of infiltrated. And at this time, there's a lot of money going around, especially a lot of street money. So yes, dudes was showing up with the black shirt on. You talking about Club Carbon? You talking about all these Cessas, all these clubs that were just like black folks were starting to get money.
right.
Understand that. They were starting to become entrepreneurs. They were starting to get big corporate jobs. They weren't really doing that in the 90s. So we didn't have a place to really have leisure and fun. So we started to create our own culture. And I would credit, and nobody talks about this. This is I don't even think you're going to find this anywhere. Black Diamonds Entertainment, Derek Corley. I mean, he started throwing parties maybe in the late 90s and spilled over to the early 2000s. But when you talk about black money and wealth and people, this is 2001, I was still a little young, coming to parties, pulling up in Bentleys and like popping bottles and spending $1,000. Black Diamond Entertainment was a collective of friends, I guess, that used to throw these really high level parties, but they were like a lot of one offs
Hmm.
that they used to do. Sometimes they used to throw them on a pair, Pink Lemonade Thursdays and all that. And I was so young. I was probably 21, 22.
I was
I
gonna
was,
ask how young.
yeah,
Okay.
I was very young. And I
Totally
was like,
exposed to this newfound kind of like New York black luxury.
yes,
Yeah,
and we defined that, and music had a lot to do with that, right? Jay-Z, especially during that time, early 2000s.
yeah,
And then I feel like when Kanye started to come along, and I don't care how you feel about Kanye, he had a true impact on the direction of culture every decade he does. And
right.
then you started to see things loosen up. And it went from only having 4 or 5 clubs to go to or going to that one off, and it started to open up. 2005, 2006 starts opening up, and now I mean, club culture is crazy.
So it goes from 4 to 5 to what, 10, 20? Did it feel like it was unlimited?
Yeah, and to be fair, this is because I did say in 2010 there were a limited amount. It's still limited. It's still limited in my opinion. It was opening up. There were a lot of one-offs, and there were clubs that would open up for a period of time and then shut down. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because a lot of clubs were just money laundering businesses anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had your like rough hood ass clubs like Club Envy. Envy was a tough ass club. There needs to be a documentary on that club.
Yeah.
Club Envy was a 2 level club. Wait a minute, 2 or 3 level club downtown in Soho, and they did a Wednesday night party.
Hmm.
And you know who helped start that party? AJ from 106 in Park.
Oh, okay.
And they used to make mad money off that door. It was him and some other really
What made it
horrible.
tough? What made it a tough club, or why
It
do you
was
describe it that
it
way?
was tough. So this is how tough it was. I mean, if you were a drug dealer and you wanted to party and show your money off, you'd go to Envy on a Wednesday night.
Got
It
it.
was insanity. It was like you could still smoke in the club at that time. Okay, you
Yeah.
partying next to Zab Judah, Busta Rhymes. Funk Master Flex is DJing he's the main DJ, DJing up top. Shout out to my boy. Oh my god, I forgot his name. But also DJ Cassidy got his start. DJ Cassidy, who's now huge, used to
Yeah.
open up for Funk Master Flex. And then there was a DJ in the basement. So once again, Young Money wanting to show off. And my times are blurring. But also during that time, there was this like whole digital revolution of nightlife photographers that started.
Tell me more.
So, oh my God, you see the way like you people react to Instagram.
Yeah.
Like there was no Instagram yet,
Right.
but there was. This is like 2004 maybe. Nightlife photographers, 7days7nights.com, allnightclubs.com. I used to be a
Mhm.
photographer for allnightclubs.com,
So
and I used
those
to,
you would take pictures and upload them to these websites, and everyone would kind of go to them to get their pictures, and then also see who's who, like who's
yeah,
there.
man, it was crazy. Like you don't
That's
understand the
crazy.
level of social currency that meant. If you got your picture taken, what you would do, if Facebook did exist, what you would do is get your picture taken, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people still weren't on Facebook at this time, but you would get your picture taken. And the club photographers were like also mini celebrities because you'd be like, yo, yo, yo,
Right.
right? You
Right.
take your picture.
Yeah.
And mind you, these were some of the most horrible, grainy pictures that you ever imagined in your life. And they
Yeah.
will always watermark the pictures, allnightclubs.com, 7days7nights.com. The very next day, the photos would be up on the website. You refreshing and refreshing to see if your picture was up. Mind you, we in business casual clothes. The women all have the teacup pose. The dudes have the baggy button downs on.
Wait, is the teacup pose went with the hand on the knee, or
This
which one?
is this is the teacup
Okay.
pose. You could tell a woman's age when she every photo is like this. She's an older
I
millennial. She's an older millennial of Gen X.
yeah.
So you wait till your picture gets up there, and then when your picture would get up there, you like, yo, that's dope. Then you would just send it to all your friends, and then you would post it on Facebook. So everybody wanted their picture taken because this was proof of life. This was proof that I have. So the first one that I remember was allnightclubs.com.
Mhm.
And then came 7days7nights.com, what's poppin.net, chateauindigo.com, Kanasia Muganda, okay, who's a legend. Kanasia probably has about 20 years, 15 years of documented nightlife history.
Wow.
Of course, you have the Johnny Nunez's of the world,
That's
but
podcast.
yeah, Johnny Nunez was more like he was working with wireimage.com and he was more like celebrity photographer.
Hmm.
But man, if you got your picture taken by him and you got up on Wire Image the next day, you were official. I still have a photo up there from like 2 million years ago. So this was a culture that everybody understood. You go to the club, you didn't mind waiting online. And then more towards the middle, like 2005, 2006, this is when this revolution really started, in my opinion,
Hmm.
where you had Black people in culture and art that started to redefine what it meant to create art and culture. What it's not just, drug dealer culture. So
Mm.
now you're having an additional set of people come into the space that have always been there, but they
Yeah.
didn't have a place of gathering. So shout out to Brooklyn. Brooklyn to me is the epicenter and main cultural touch point when you want to talk about how everybody is interacting today,
Yeah.
because you started to have these like house party vibes
Hmm.
start pouring into the lounges and clubs, and people were like, man, I don't want to pop bottles, be around a bunch of like, you know people that I don't want to be around stuffy people that are coming from their corporate job and trying to look more important than they actually aren't, and I don't want to be around that element, you know what I'm saying, where it's just like you gotta may have get in a fight, you can't take your girl there. So what I would call it is that sort of just like uptown meets downtown,
I love
feel came. And that was very reminiscent of the 90s, Limelight and all that. We started to want to go to art galleries and museums and art shows and support up and coming artists
Yeah.
because the music that was coming out was like unbelievable. It was unbelievable, the music that was coming out, and it wasn't just from New York. This is from all around the world.
Mm.
And now the internet is evolving, and now a thing called MySpace exists.
Right. Wait, so let me stop you there because this is getting good. So I asked initially about 2010, but we
Mm.
realized we had to go back a little bit to really understand and
Yeah.
comprehend 2010. So New York, late 90s, we have the drug dealer, not even drug dealer chic yet. It's just drug dealer. Drug dealer, flashy, Harlem. influence, and sounds like the city's closed up for that Black audience, the hip hop audience. Little by little, Black people of a certain caliber are getting like more corporate jobs. Even
Yeah.
I'm imagining the street guys are making more money. So there's more money. So there's more demand to go party. It's now the early 2000s. And so now we're seeing more business casual. There's no Instagram. The way you prove your social status is everyone's checking these domains, which is kind of trippy to think about because we're so
Yeah.
not a domain culture anymore. Like we
Yeah.
don't like www dot anymore like we to. So
Yeah.
shout out to all those folks who actually purchased those domains and created those like hubs of internet culture. It sounded like it was a big deal. And then just so I also have like notes on when stuff came out. So Facebook, MySpace comes out 2003. Facebook comes out 2004. A thing to keep in mind for everyone listening is just because something came out at that time doesn't mean it got hot. It usually
Yeah.
takes a few years.
Yeah.
Um, so we're about to talk about the artists, and I know you mentioned like interviewing iconic artists like Kid Cudi. You said you were
Yeah.
cigarettes with Lady Gaga. So what in particular stood out to you about artists at that time? Were they more something, less something? Like curious.
I think it was, I've always been personally involved in media. I actually started and then I'm going to answer your question. Just to give you context, I started the first online hip hop television show, which was like 2000, and
What was it?
it was called The Circuit TV. It was like 2003, 2004. I started the first online hip hop television show with a
How did
gentleman named.
What do you mean online?
Yeah, I know. Let me explain to you. It wasn't even hosted on a website. Let me tell you how gangster we used to do it. I used to go with a mini DV camera, a Sony VX, and this was probably 2023. I bought the camera. 2022, 2023, I bought the camera, and 2003, sorry, 2003, Jesus Christ. And I was like, yo, I was having a kid. My son is 21 now. I was like, I need to make extra money. Let me be a videographer on the side while I work my job. I
Mhm.
read this article about this guy on allhiphop.com, which was literally up before. Allhiphop.com has been up for a million years.
Mm.
And I read this article about him, and then I read the source, and I was like, yo, I want to do this. I
What
want
was
to.
what was he doing? He had allhiphop.com and he was just
Yeah, well, I read an article, I'm sorry, I read an article about Johnny Nunez,
okay.
both in the source and allhiphop.com. He was a celebrity photographer. He's still around. I've had the pleasure of working with him. I
Nice.
said, I can do this, but with video. And then I want to start my own platform. So I
Nice.
went to Bad Boy Records, just happened to be having like this like conference. And I went to this conference, and next thing I know, I meet this guy at the conference, and we form a thing called the Circuit TV. And he had the technology. The only thing that this guy had was he knew how to take video and put it into QuickTime files. That's it. That was all. So what we would do is we had a website, and we put sign up to receive an email, and you'll receive the video. So it's this goddamn 17, 20-minute video. Everybody didn't have high speed internet access then.
Yeah.
Most people had 50.
Yeah, a 17-minute video is huge in 2000. What is this, 2004?
This is about 2004, 2005, and then
Yeah.
I switched to my own platform with some friends.
Okay.
So you would get the video, you would get the email, you would have to wait for this thing to download. And I mean, it took about an hour and a half, and then you would watch it, you'd be like, whoa! But I was
Yeah.
going to clubs, I was documenting things that people weren't even seeing. I had video of goddamn, Just Blaze break dancing in a club with nobody in it. I had videos of everything. I still have some tapes. I just need to digitize them. But
Yeah.
I did that for about 2 years, and I started gakcity.com, grown ass kids, GAKCITY.com. And to answer your question is that was more progressive. That was more holy shit, like the culture's changing. 2005 is here, and
Yeah.
like music is changing. It's not just
Yeah.
about shoot 'em up state property. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which I couldn't really stand that culture anyway. It was starting to outgrow it myself as a man.
Hmm.
To answer your question once again, I was just so floored by these new artists that were coming out, especially like the Kanyes of the world, and
Yeah.
this new sound merged with social media, technology. YouTube had just come out in 2005 and changed the game for us. So I didn't need to do the whole QuickTime file thing and watch the video on blah 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 blah. People had high speed internet access now, and now YouTube is out.
Yep.
So I
You
do this
did
thing.
come 2005 for everyone listening.
Exactly. So the kids were on technology. They were starting to, Napster,
Live.
LimeWire. Yeah, Napster was first, and then LimeWire came. And we were just like, yo, we're downloading music. Like, what is this? People were uploading their music from around the world. What we're sharing. So the sharing changed the game. And now you had access to some kid in Bolivia somewhere uploading tracks he made in his bedroom because now he has Fruity Loops on his laptop and he's making beats and remixing things. So we were
So you
just
were
like,
listening to international artists at this point?
it was my first time. I was like, wow, that changed my life.
Wow.
It changed my life. I was like, yo, because I was really living in the hood. I was like, yo, and I just outgrew it culturally. I was like, yo, I don't want to be in the hood just eating hard ass chicken wings with you and listening to goddamn, uh, you know, state property all day. I want to see what the world is. I want to get my passport and travel, but I couldn't because we were broke. So my thing was, I traveled through the music
Mm.
and it opened our minds up. So more of us started to link up. You had YouTube, you had MySpace now, and we were like, yo, party in Brooklyn and then it just snowballed. So
Interesting.
it was more gate kept, and we started to do these like really like little small jump offs, and then you be partying next to like, people that are now celebrities and big stars now.
Yeah.
And then that
Anyone
sort
come to
of,
mind?
yeah, that grew.
No, I was
So
saying anyone come to mind when you're picturing like who's big now at these parties?
We just saw. So I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Forest Renaissance.
Shout out to Paris Renaissance.
Forest Renaissance had an event called the Eclectic Ride. That is, I don't care. That's the source. I will give him props. And I'm just like you. I've tried to go on YouTube and find things about it. It's absolutely insanity to me that you can't find anything. Forest Renaissance threw a party. It was a concert, damn near slash party. It wasn't even a party. It was a concert series called the Eclectic Ride, and
Mm,
it happened at a place called Joe's Pub. And he had everybody. I mean, Bilal to Erica Badu to Common. Jay Z showed up one night.
hmm.
You had all these stars that were coming and performing, and they just for the love.
Yeah,
And so you were around these people, you could touch them, you can see them, you're this close to them.
correct.
And
Yeah.
now a lot of them are huge celebrities and stars. So, I mean, you had old school artists and you had new school artists, but then that just splintered off into so many different iterations. So
Yeah.
now everybody's throwing their own things, and then nightclubs are starting to get a little bit more progressive because we're getting older and we can own our own things. So places like Joe's Pub were very progressive because they not allowed, but understood that black people's money are green just like everybody else, and you could
Hmm.
dress how you wanted to dress. There was no
Hmm.
dress code. I could wear Nike Dunks were pretty big. All right, I could wear my Nike Dunks, and then
Now we're starting to see the shift
the
out of
shift.
casual into whatever streetwear is popping at the time, whatever you want to wear.
Yeah, skateboarding culture had a huge impact on fashion because of the Kanyes, the Lupes, and the Pharrells.
Yeah.
So you're seeing Nike Dunks being worn. You're seeing Japanese culture starting to be slowly interweaved into Black people's inspiration and them
Where's
too.
Japanese influence coming from, you think?
The internet and people having more access to understand that Japanese have a certain respect for Black culture and they do it right. They're going to appropriate, do it right.
Yeah.
And then they had an impact on us because you're talking about bathing ape and Nego. Bathing ape and Nego changed everything.
Everything.
Everything. Bathing Ape was being bootlegged on Canal Street. The
It's
it just
almost like
changed.
the city exploded in color. Like when I think about the drug dealer era, the state property era, everything was black and gray. Like I think about all those Reasonable Doubt videos, everything was great.
Yeah.
We did get some shine from
Yeah.
Bad Boy. We did get some
Yeah.
shine from Bad Boy, but overall hip hop was dark and grungy. Almost every hip hop video of the 90s, everybody's wearing the big puffer with the beanie. They're in the cold. And I love, and of course, there's a
Yeah.
big place in I think all of a hip hop head's heart for that classic 90s. But then, yes, in I want to say around 2005. So again, I have notes here. So Liquor comes out 2007. Kick Push comes out 2006, right? So we're getting this Lupe influence. Kanye, yeah, it really felt like MySpace and that era. Really, it just felt like the city just got
Oh
exploded
man.
with color. I'm
Yeah.
picturing Bathing Ape. I'm picturing the Soho Kids. Everything is just now we have the multicolor LV line launch. Like literally everything just becomes a little bit lighter and
Yeah.
artistic. And it just was undeniably influential to everyone in the city and
Yeah.
probably eventually in the world at that time. Okay, so I want to know what happens to the circuit. So you're running your online TV show, which is insane to think
Yeah.
about. You're
Yeah.
you're already an icon, right? You have the first iPhone. We already discussed that. And then so even before that, you were basically documenting cool shit that was happening in the city in the art scene, and people cared enough to like download it. Eventually YouTube comes and it kind of facilitates the distribution.
Mhm.
And I can imagine that so many artists were able to capitalize off of the lime wires and the sharing of the music. It's like this new thing and it's a
Mhm.
great way to get the music out. This is way before Spotify and Apple Music. Another one too, iPod comes out in 2001.
Yeah. Yeah.
iPod, I can't, it sounds like earlier than I thought, but iPod comes out 2001, and that also truly changes
Yeah.
music
Music.
and the city. Because I remember being on the train and people having that big old bulky with the metal
I
back.
missed mine.
It was a revolutionary invention.
Hmm.
So different variations of iPods are dropping year by year as we're
Yeah.
talking about these years. Colorful ones, nano ones.
Yeah.
And we have so much more control over the music we're listening to, not just like you got to think, it's New York, right? So we went from like radio, only
Hmm.
being able to listen to music if it came to you, only being able to listen to it through a CD,
Yeah.
and now it's like everything's starting to jumble and you can find new artists and find MP3s of
Hmm.
all these people. Okay, so what happens with the circuit? So how does that
Yeah. It helped me create my community. I met a gazillion people in the industry, and it was basically an excuse for me to get into any place I wanted to get into. So
okay?
the circuit TV was that, and then I stepped away from my old partner, and me and the host. Shout out to Jeremy Hassel. He does like CBS and NBC now. He's doing his thing. He was
Mhm.
host. I was behind the camera, and we used to just go to. Now is the time where all the poppin' parties, like YouTube is up. It's 2005, 2006, 2007,
Yeah.
and we are literally we're living. I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words. It was never about money. And I don't know how to explain that. I remember caring about money, but I was so about the culture. It mattered to us. What happens is that when you go out every night, you meet people. So, like I said, individual by myself, just trying to figure it out. I get my click, and then I create this community. And you start identifying people in the community, and we're interviewing these parties. And what we said is, we're not only going to be hip hop centric, that was the Circuit TV. With the GAC City, we're going to be progressive. We're going to interview everybody, everything from folks in the Hamptons to Pharrell's new group. He had a group called Chester French. It was these two white boys. It was like for a hot minute. We interviewed him. We snuck into a Kanye West and his mother's book event. We snuck into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to film Kanye's acceptance speech. We were just guerrilla, and that was the start of sort of us being in that whole YouTube, MySpace, download these songs, or send the link,
Yeah.
and download this album energy. And we started seeing it's like really only about 200, 300 of us. We are the downtown kids now.
Right.
We're the fucking cool kids. So this whole cool kid thing started.
Yeah.
So we are the cool kids, whether you like to call it or not. Nobody liked to be called that, even though there was a
Right.
group called the Cool Kids. We were those kids. I was going, so that our typical day would start like this. During the day, you're booking to see if you could get an interview and get in. Like, yo, Amy Winehouse is performing at Bowery Ballroom. Can I
Mm.
get press passes? So you're emailing the publicist. I mean, you're lying. You're making up all types of stories. You try to sneak
Being
in.
crafty. You got, like you said, gorilla. It's
Gorilla, you're sneaking on the red carpets and all this stuff. And we were gangster because we went from being denied to all the publicists loving us because we would turn over the content the same night. Like we would leave a party, a red carpet at 8:30, 9 o'clock, or an event at 10. We would stay up and edit it until 3 o'clock in the morning. These were mini DV tapes. The shit would be up in the morning and we would beat Entertainment Tonight. So
little do they know that, yeah, you're technically not supposed to be here and you're just these
yeah,
kind of kids off the street, but you're helping these motherfuckers. You're
I am.
helping stay cutting edge
They
in media
realize that.
before people can even understand how the internet is playing a
Yeah.
role in relevancy.
I did one of probably the first interview Janelle Monáe ever did in New York. I did Calvin Harris's first interview, the big producer that he ever did in New York. I filmed Lady Gaga in the back of a club smoking cigarettes. That video is still up on Gag City on YouTube
Nice.
before she blew up. I filmed Kid Cudi when he was opening up for Mickey Fax and a bunch of other people.
Shout out to Mickey Fax.
Yeah, Mickey Fax was huge. I mean, GFC crew.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the GFC crew. Those guys are legends too. Shout out to Kwasi Casey and Saint. All those guys. So I know the culture. So we are meeting, and so you start the day off trying to get into these events and these parties. Yo, what you doing for the night? You're texting each other on probably two ways. The two-way thing
Yep.
in 2006. Whoa, what was that? Okay.
Doing its thing.
So, and then you're also working. Okay. You understand? We were just broke ass kids. You're working as well. For me, I had a kid. So I had to really, so
What were
I
you
got fired.
working doing?
I was actually working at a hospital for some time, but because I was so dedicated to this, I got fired for falling asleep at the job. I was interning at Bad Boy Records. So I was working from 8 to 4 p.m. And then at 4:30 p.m., sometimes till 2 in the morning, I'd be at Bad Boy interning in the video production department because I was a videographer for Bad Boy. So
So you would wake up, go to work, but while you're at work, you're kind of planning the logistics of where we at tonight, who can we interview?
yeah,
You get in there, you stay up all night editing the stuff, launching it, and then you're going back to work tired. They're like, get out of here.
yeah. And mind you, we were drinking a lot. Yeah, I wasn't just working; I would party too after the work is done. Of
Right,
course, I'm in my 20s. You could drop me off a roof and I'd just wake up and
right.
walk.
Get back up like nothing.
But I eventually got fired, and I said, "Yo, I'm in full time now. I'm in full time."
Yeah,
And what I did is I said, well, the one thing that I do have is I'm a natural. Somebody said, Mike, you're a natural born marketer. My ex girlfriend, actually, I was like, all right, cool. I'll try
yeah.
marketing. What is marketing?
And I'm so happy you say that because when you come from the streets, you don't know. You don't know what these things are called. You're just like, I'm having a good time. I love it here. You don't know that you're into media. You don't know you're a marketer. You don't know you're a brand strategist. You're just
Yeah.
with it, So I'm
Yo, you
happy
from Brooklyn,
to give you some language to go with it.
you being from Brooklyn, you're from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, all day.
You being you being from Brooklyn, you already know this. You do what you got to do.
Right. Yeah.
So you're right. And this is why it's important people like you help people understand their value.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't know my value back then. I would have charged triple if I knew my value. What I'm
Right.
getting paid now to do the same thing I was doing back then.
Yep.
So I started my own marketing agency just to keep myself with money in my pocket, and my son in school, and I was hustling for
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and we did all of that, and we were able to do some phenomenal stuff. Without those experiences, I would
Hmm.
not be where I'm at today with my career,
Yep.
because it was scrappy, and you had to be persistent no matter what was going on in your life. But I will tell you this: when you walked into that party after coming from work, some people go directly from that to the party. Around 6 p.m., you go to the art party, right? You go to the art gallery show.
Uh-huh.
And there's always, boy, we used to chase the open bar. Oh my God, open bar was like, now I can't stand an open bar. I'm just like, get that away from me. You chase the open bar, and we're just sitting there drinking this $3 wine, and we're outside. It's like, we just,
Pre-gaming.
yeah, you see your people, yo, what's up, what's up? You forget everything that's going on in your life. Then after that, okay, it's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We're going to motivate to the other thing. So let's go to the meatpacking district, or whatever like that. And, you just cruise around, and, you're, hey, where you at? Yo, we're here, blah, blah, blah. They got this show. What's the name's performing? Okay, you're going to a performance. After that, you're going into the nightlife.
Right.
And nightlife was all about, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't know, we can't help you. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
because everybody not supposed to be here. Oh, I
Hmm.
don't fuck with them. No, don't tell them. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. No. So you had your cliques. This is when it gets back to being clique, not community. You go in between clique and community,
That's
right?
real. That's real.
The big things were Fashion Week. Fashion Week, and I feel sorry for a lot of the youth that will never get to experience the level of fun that New York Fashion Week was.
The internet took away so much fun. I just,
Because yeah, it
yeah.
did. Fashion Week used to be in the tents in Bryant Park. And then after it moved to Bryant Park for many years, it moved to Lincoln Center, which is completely not the same.
So is it when it was at the tents in Bryant Park, is that another way of saying it was more accessible? Because it just sounds like a
No,
big event.
you had to.
What made the tents at Bryant Park special
Well,
compared
let's
to
say
the
the
center?
person that invented New York Fashion Week, her name is Fern Malice.
Mhm.
Fern Malice, the first year she did New York Fashion Week, it was a disaster. It rained, and they had tents. The rain went through the tent, poured on the people, and she was like, "Yo, I'm done."
Oh my God.
But people loved it. It was an organic and authentic experience. People even wrote about it. The following year, it came back, and year over year, it just became this international thing.
So it just started from some woman like, I just want to do a fashion week here.
Yeah, yeah. And she's like definitely an older woman now. I met her before and talked to her. But the thing that made it so great is because you had to have, in order to get, when the Fashion Week invites came out, you had to like submit to the website. You had to go through the publicist. So there was handpick. It wasn't an algorithm,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, hey, we released your tickets, and you kind of had to have a media platform, be in fashion, or just be somebody. The term influencer did not exist. I
Hmm.
even know how the term influencer came. I can tell you who invented the term
Oh,
influencer, but
enlighten
there
us.
but there wasn't the term influencer. You were maybe a tastemaker at best.
Yeah, I prefer tastemaker.
Tastemaker, yes,
Yeah.
during this time. But what happened was you would go, the events would start, the fashion show would start early in the morning, and you may go to a fashion show, then you go, go have a bite to eat, or you go to an off-site show that's going on. People are launching stuff. So it's just this week long of events, experiences, giveaways. It was just, there was a lot of money flowing during that time. And then
Hmm.
at night, though, you probably go home, you fresh up, change your outfit, then the nightlife started. And that's when that's even harder to get into than the events during the day. So it was just this like exclusivity that existed specifically for people that were about that life, not people pretending. Because now you can cosplay your life because of the internet.
Yeah.
So you keep going, 2007, 2008, and these years really started. This is when technology really starts getting crazy.
Just
Blog
someone
culture.
listening knows Instagram comes out
Yes.
2010.
Well, yeah, and
iPod,
this is before.
iPad comes out 2010.
Mhm.
Yeah. So now we're hitting this kind of like screeching halt. Because
It's
I'm because it's
yeah.
like, what is this, they're obviously a different era forms, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious what you feel causes that. What is the cause of the next era? Is it Instagram? Is it, you know, was
Yeah,
it a
people found the hacks, and even before Instagram it was Twitter, so we communicated through Twitter
Mhm.
really more so. Instagram did not pop off until, in my opinion, a handful of years ago, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
And that's a handful. I'll say 2013, 14, 15. But Twitter, we had Twitter before it became like this racist goddamn Nazi party,
Weird.
an incel party. Twitter was dope. Twitter was on fire.
Yeah.
Now it's large scale communities being created. Now you have Black Twitter, right? So,
It was fun. It was
it was
I
fun.
was I'm obviously younger, so I was in high school, but I always tell everyone I would cut class just to go home and be on Twitter all day. I was meeting people, I was talking to people all day. Like the internet used to be so much more interactive,
Yeah.
like how threads are, kind of how we got here, right?
Mhm.
You went on Twitter and you just talk shit and
Yeah.
on people. So okay, so Twitter, you're saying was a influence in kind of like now we're entering this new era where it's not as scrappy as the QuickTime videos and the the 7 days, 7 nights website. Now we're getting like we're getting, and honestly it wasn't even an app. It wasn't an application yet. It was still very much like a domain type site, but social experiences are becoming more centralized by a way of Twitter, by way of Tumblr as well, was a huge role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Viral, like viral, the age of viral,
Yeah.
right?
And the first internet celebrities, like the first,
Mhm.
I want to say all the first internet celebrities were like poppin' Tumblr Soho kids, at least in the
Yeah.
black world. Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you something, and I absolutely love Tumblr, and I'm still on Tumblr, but I do I'm just on it for nostalgia because when I don't want to talk to anybody, when I delete all my apps, I keep Tumblr because I just want to visually see things. But what Tumblr did, this is what Tumblr did. In order to be in from my generation anyway, in order like to be in a culture or to be considered somebody who's contributing to culture, culture creator, you created your style. Your style was created by what you did and what you produced and who you interacted with and where you went. It wasn't produced by, I like his style, I'm going to copy it.
Right.
And what happened was it created a lot of people were like, they understood aesthetic. And that to me was the decline of sort of a lot of originality
Yeah.
because you could not just copy somebody's style, right? Like an ASAP Yams.
Points. You lose points if you come. Yeah. You had to
Exactly.
bring something fresh, especially in New York.
Yeah. When like ASAP's crew came out and they had that original style, everybody copied them, right? Everybody was just like, yo, ASAP Yams, ASAP Rocky, ASAP this. And that virality started, and people started to be like, well, this is what a cool kid looks like. Let me put on this uniform. And now everybody can dress now. I say this, everybody can dress now. And I say, like, you couldn't do that back in the day. You had authentic people whose experiences were created because of those things. Like
Yeah.
even my style, I used to call myself, even different names back. Like we had, well, somebody gave me the name, Mike Mancini. They used to call me that, and I I got that name from my amateur fighting days, and it stuck with me. So people's nicknames would stick with them. Their
Hmm.
style was identifiable.
Hmm.
All these people, and I'm missing thousands of people. So people don't get mad if I didn't name a bunch of people, but
Right.
what Tumblr did was like, here's access to how to dress if you want to be considered cool. YouTube gave you hacks on how to get into, I mean, you had people uploading videos how to get into Fashion Week. You had people
Really?
on, yeah, you had people on Twitter starting to share secrets with people of how to do things. When this was just don't tell nobody, word of mouth, blah, blah, blah. So there's no more secrets anymore because it's impossible.
Yeah.
And yo, it's popping right now at this club, and then everybody's coming. I benefited off that, of course, when I was working with my brands I was working with. But
Yeah.
now you're entering into the era of influencer.
Yeah.
And the person, and I'm going to say this, Nobody says this. The person that created the concept of influencer, his name is Coltrane Curtis. And
Mm,
him and his wife, they're the founders of, Coltrane Curtis is the founder of a marketing agency, a huge marketing agency that was sort of one of the first urban marketing agencies that existed.
hmm
And they were just like doing the coolest fucking activations for brands. You
hmm
know what I mean? Like they convinced like Pepsi to give them $1 million to do all this stuff like that. And I'm just using an example. So it was Coltrane Curtis who created this concept of influencer.
hmm
And then nobody will ever tell you this. Nobody will ever tell you this because the people that know, they're off the grid. They're down. I want to give a big shout out to Alloy Marketing and Promotion, which are a couple brothers that went to college together. Bobby Jones, Tony Fair, Kenny Burns, who everybody knows Kenny Burns, he's a record executive. And there's another guy that I don't remember. Alloy Marketing and Promotions, at the same time, Coltrane Curtis, these were sort of the forefathers of urban marketing. And there's a whole bunch of other people. There's a guy named B. Wynn from LA who's legendary. Look up to him big time.
Yeah,
These were the guys who created like the influencer concept. And then every brand took it and ran with it in the world.
it's like super mainstream now.
So I was a part of one of the first influencer programs. It was called the Influencer Program. It was through Alloy Marketing and Promotion. And they got this big, this was 2009, 10. They got this big budget to pick five to six people, the biggest influencers in each city, to do a nightlife based program to boost bottle service usage
And
through
how
Belvedere.
did they pick them? Are they
I
just
mean, I was just creating fucking culture, man. I was just like, honestly, I was on fire at this time. I was in Complex magazine. I was in Essence magazine.
yeah,
I was just in all these public. I was just the man around town doing my thing,
right.
and so they
So
called me
you
up.
knew who to call to kind of handpick for this program.
Yeah, they knew who to call. They called me, right? So I got chose to. I got chose for New York, which was a big honor.
You were the influencer.
Yeah, me and five, six other guys in each city, and it was called the More Belvy program, and only Twitter was out, so it was hashtag More Belvy, and all we did was my only job for about a year and a half was to pop bottles, be around celebrities, and be around models. They gave me an Amex and a budget, and they said go out every night. You got 6 parties to look after, blah 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 blah,
Amazing.
and that was my job.
Yeah,
So that was the first influencer program. When we did that, every brand stole it. And that wasn't invented by me. That was through Ally Marketing and Promotions,
God,
which all those guys have went on to do phenomenal things. So
wow,
the influencer thing started to get out. Everybody wanted to be an influencer. The thing that people misconstrue about being an influencer, where I
yeah,
see everybody get it wrong, even these people that are making thousands of dollars off of teaching you how to be one, you
yeah.
could not call yourself an influencer.
Mm.
Calling yourself an influencer is like calling yourself a doctor and you're like, you know what I'm saying? And you didn't go to school, like you didn't put in the time. So now,
Someone else has to call you it because you have to earn it from the people. You
yes,
can't give it your own title. You have to earn the
yeah.
title. Yeah.
I still cringe to this day when people are like influencer and they haven't
Influence.
created, yeah. Like if you're creating content, if you're going out and you're going to, in nightlife, entrenched, pushing it forward, yeah, by all means.
Yeah, I do agree that modern social media turned influencing into a vanity, superficial
Yeah,
kind of title, where from your perspective, an influencer is deeply integrated in the lifestyle. Like you said, I mean, you would wake up, you would plan where are we going tonight, you were
yeah,
uploading things on the internet. So there is a level of integration that I don't think is understood in our modern idea of what an influencer is. It's more just kind of
yeah,
like a broadcast, like, oh, they have a bunch of followers and they post something to the broadcast. But are you in the streets? Are you in the trenches? Are you surrounding yourself with up and coming artists and making sure you're building relationships?
yeah,
That I think really makes the difference between someone who's actually having influence.
yeah. Sweat equity. sweat equity mattered too. So we never called ourselves influencers.
Yeah.
That was something that was a part of a thing that was created by Culture and Curtis. And then it spread a little bit and then it's shared amongst marketing circles as a way to identify people who were culture creators and had an impact on the culture. And
Yeah.
then we were just like, all right, fuck it, we're the influence for this program. But I never was like, I'm an influencer. I've never called myself that, even though I am the first generation influencer, technically.
And but like you said, that makes sense. It would be weird if you were going around like I'm an influencer, I'm an influencer. You earn it from folks like me who come after you and see how much you've put into the game, and it's like, yes, like this is the real deal here.
A true one to me has always been Vashti.
Sure.
Vashti is unfuckwittable when it comes to her resume,
Hmm.
her contribution,
Yeah.
and just being a black woman, especially a Caribbean black woman who has transcended almost two generations now and is still relevant and still getting campaigns and a mother now. I'll
Yeah.
leave it there.
That's such a good point. And that's kind of where I want to like put the bow on this is hearing your thoughts on today's media landscape. I don't know. I'm curious how you feel. I'm curious what you feel is missing. Like, obviously, we can agree that there's less integration in the streets, there's less being outside. What do you have? Like, what advice would you give younger people who want to experience, something similar in terms of like creating communities, cliques, like what can we do in today's, like, if you were, maybe the best way to ask is if you were 21 right now, how
Wow.
would you be moving and shaking?
The funny thing is, I hired this kid who's 21 to do our social media for Uncle Waithley's. And
Huh.
he reminds me of me so much, and it
Mm,
scares the shit out of me. Sometimes I look at him like, that was me, I was him, and he's a videographer and
yeah.
an artist. And what I would do is literally, okay, so let me give you some gems. I'm so fucking good at this. As a person who now like controls budgets and, a business owner and
See the
all this stuff,
inside, right?
I would I know this is going to sound so basic, just create. Don't worry about it if it's perfect. Don't care about perfection.
Hmm.
Just create something and just upload it and share it with the world. But the number one thing is to be consistent. I
Hmm.
don't care if you create 200 songs,
Yeah.
and at number 199, the 199th song may be the song that pops off.
Yeah.
Just keep creating and be consistent. The problem is people give up. I am the most resilient human in the world. There is no stopping me. I will never stop. I don't care. I've sat in, like, let me tell you something, my entrepreneur journey. I remember being in housing court one time, and I was still sending texts to my business partners like, yo, we need to get this done. You
Hmm.
have to be consistent no matter what. And you
Yeah.
have to make sure that your shit is quality. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Quality. You don't have to have the perfect microphone or the perfect camera. When I mean quality, make sure that it is authentic to you
Hmm.
and not authentic. That's what, like Dochi, right? Dochi's amazing, right?
Shout
Oh,
out to
that's what she's
Sophie.
doing. That's what she's doing in that work. So I'm going to do what she's doing.
Right. You can't
No,
copy. You can't copy. It's
you
not gonna
can't
work.
copy it.
Yeah.
You can't copy it. And that's why so many old heads like us love Doshi. And don't get me twisted. I know every new artist. I will go toe to toe with anybody. I study music to
Right.
the T. I put younger people on the music because I love music. And I'll
Yeah.
never stop doing that. The key is music keeps you young.
Hmm.
What the other advice that I would give you is you need to be networking. You need to be networking. I know that people hate that word. You can make up whatever word you want.
Right.
Younger people don't understand something. This is how you make money. Okay.
Tell him, Michael.
These motherfuckers, man, listen. If I was a young kid that was living at home with his parents, which is a huge advantage if you ain't got to pay bills and rent, we got bills, right? We grown, right? We got bills. So if I was just that kid just creating and I had that time and that energy just to create and take advantage of that opportunity of not having any real responsibilities, I would
Hmm.
be networking with people in my industry that are older than me because I have capacity issues. I can't go out to events. like that. I can't. I'm literally in front of my computer or with my kids,
Hmm.
or I'm in London. I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So I can't be creating content like that all the time. And the way at the rate that we need to be creating content or doing some things that may seem administrative,
Hmm.
figure out what you could take off those people's table. Get
Yeah.
into busy people's lives, figure out what it is that they need help with, and
Hmm.
get them to pay you to do the thing.
Yeah.
Straight up, find out busy people that have budgets that they could pay you. Find out what their pain points are. Like, hey man, I heard you need somebody to run all your social medias. My friend of mine has 8 companies. Yeah, those 8 companies need content, and they need management of that content. So that's a contract.
Right.
Bring that to me, and I'll do that. You're already doing this shit for free, so figure out how to do that and just network, network, network. And don't be afraid or intimidated by anyone, because everybody has a childlike spirit. Either they show it or it's trapped inside. And when
Hmm.
they look at younger people, sometimes they get that energy like, yeah, I want to give you an opportunity. But
Yeah.
don't think that, and I'll land the plane here, but don't think just because, like, I had this guy come to me and he was like, hey, what's up? I'm a content creator. And he was like, you should hire me. It's $5,000. And he was like, yeah, it's $5,000 and I'll do 2 pieces of content for you. I was like, I'm sorry. And it'll
Hmm.
only be 30 seconds and you're going to do it on your iPhone. I was like, nah, I'm good. I think I'm good. And he thought I needed to hand him something. You're going to have to work. This is just what it is. You can't escape the work.
Yeah.
But most importantly, lastly, take care of your mental health.
Yes. And I wanted to make sure we touched on that because I think it's important for everyone listening. And one thing I've noticed about the OGs in the game that I have a lot of respect for is there is a theme of integrating more mental health in the messaging, which I know that you have done and are continuing to do. So I want to just quickly end here talking about your new book, Inner Warrior Memoir of a Latchkey Kid.
Yeah.
When did the mental health conversation enter the picture for you?
So yeah, I've been working in mental health for probably 11 years now, and
Yes.
I work across all spaces, but Black men's health is definitely, my passion. My book, Inner Warriorship, Memoir of a Latchkey Kid, is basically my memoir, my experience of how I went through childhood trauma and was able to heal, transmute that, and thrive as a person, as a human,
Yeah.
and still be purposeful in this world. Mental health is super important. This was not in the picture when we were out. And I even touch on, in 2000, 10 and 11, in those years of just drinking and partying and not even knowing what mental health was. This is
Yeah.
a very recent conversation. So my book does touch on, mental health and how to navigate that and how to make it important in your life. But it's not weakness talking about mental health. The same way you care about your physical health, the
Yes.
same way you should care about your mental health. So make sure that you are taking space and time to rest, reset, and focus on you. And I would add that for all aspiring entrepreneurs and artists.
Yes. Again, I've noticed that the people who I respect in the game who have more wisdom to offer, I just think it's important for all of us as listeners to hear this important nuance and kind of like olive branch, like, hey, yes, do all this stuff, work really hard, network, create stuff. But it feels like if you could go back, you would have, if you knew about this information, right? Maybe you would have started your mental health journey before. And I feel
Yeah.
similarly, like I've definitely had to learn how to heal through my hustle. And that's really crazy because I'm just like, how was I even doing all that with such poor mental health?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's that Brooklyn thing, though. That's that, like, yo, we going to make it happen. We from the city. And,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that, Alex, because, one, I want to say that just kudos to you for everything that you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And just because there's an age difference here doesn't mean that I can't look up to you and the things that you've accomplished. And I want to cut that ageism bullshit out.
Yes.
Ageism is the, like, if you're an ageist, you're whack. I don't care how old you are.
100%.
Like, if
100.
you're, yeah, you're whack. Like, and I want to, secondly, I said, with everything that I've done in my life, you are the only person to ever ask me about this stuff.
Mm.
And I've accomplished a lot. And you're the only person to ask me about culture. We have to start safeguarding our culture
I agree.
And we have to start talking. I always talk to the OGs. I was like, yo, man, tell me about the time in the 80s and the 90s because I
Yes.
learned. So thank you for asking.
I really appreciate that. It means so much. And when you said that, I thought about the late DJ Clark Kent, who was a mentor to me, who just passed, and the
Mhm.
way I would call him up and he would be so thrilled to share these stories of Christopher, aka Biggie and Jay-Z, and when you're in it again, it just, if you think everyone cares or you think, you don't see what's so
Yeah.
special, but then I do think as you get older and as you navigate more corporate spaces, you see how special this relationship to street culture is, to New York is, and I do agree. And your thread really helped me. It sparked me to be like, I have to talk about this. I have so much other shit going on, but I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
take time out because there's just something about this that I feel really strongly to articulate and have a conversation about. So again, thank you so much for
Thank
hopping on and
you.
sharing amazing stories. Let people know where they can follow you and get more involved in
Yeah.
journey.
For you can follow me on Threads. Threads and Instagram is Oshim the Machine, which is like just my spiritual moniker. And I was just like, I never use my real name on social, so I just thought it was cool. Oshim the Machine. And then my book is coming out in January. It's innerwarriorship.com. I'm actually raising money for my 10-part podcast series that's connected to the book.
Oh, nice.
So you can, if you guys want to support that, it's my first time like doing something like that for myself. So innerwarriorship.com. And yeah, hit me up. I got to give a shout out to my friend Charlize Antoinette, who from the same time period, we may be working on something very special for you guys about this time period, this vanguard, as I call it.
Yes. Oh, well, we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. And we'll make sure we have all this information in the description so you can follow Michael and his journey. And thank you guys for watching.